Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope those of you in the heat waves are dealing with the summertime heat by staying indoors. Or hit the beach. If you have one available, hit the lake, hit the river. We were reminiscing out there in the chat about how we dealt with it as kids back before we were rich enough to live in a house with air conditioning. That was always for the rich people. Us regular folks didn't have the money to live in a house that had central heat or air. So we dealt with the winter by lighting a fire in the fireplace or turning up the oil stove or whatever. Then dealt with the heat in the summer by hitting whatever swimming hole we had. So anyway, it's good to reminisce, but it's also great to sit in a nice climate controlled shop where it is 68 in here and 77 outside already. So, anyhow, yeah, happy Sunday. Somebody brought up this is episode 345. That was Kurt out there in the chat. And it is. That's a little over, if you divide it by 52 weekly shows, that is a little over 6.5 years. Missing a few due to illness or vacations or what have you. But yeah, I do it because I have fun, and I'm going to stay here until YouTube tells me I can't do it no more. So I have kind of a topic in my back pocket that we can pull out if I need to, just so I don't have to tap dance for the next 60 to 90 minutes. But I've already got a couple of questions out here in the chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about the easiest one first. And but it's an open Q&A, and feel free to throw your question over here in the chat, and I'll do my best to either answer it or point you in the direction where you can find an answer. So this one comes from Joe Kelly, who says, could you show us how to put measurements on a drawing from the measuring tool? And it's a two-part answer, Joe. The first one is, no, I can't tell you how to put measurements in a drawing with the drawing tool, because the drawing tool won't do that. I can show you how to put measurements on a drawing using the dimension tool, which is different. And to do that, let's go ahead and get into VCarve Pro. Now, this works the same way in VCarve Desktop, VCarve Pro, Aspire, and I believe Cut2D Pro and Desktop. But you might want to check. So first thing we need is we need something to measure. So let's go with the polygon. And we'll make it 6-sided. And I'm going to start it here, and we'll draw it out like so. And then we'll close that. I have no idea what size I made it. All I know is I centered it on my XY0 point. Now, down here, we have the measure tool. And with the measure tool, we can measure between 2 points. So I can measure from here to here. And it tells me that that distance is 9.2 inches. Okay, that's great. Or I can measure the span or contour properties. And with that, I'll click on this span here, and it tells me that that length of that span is 4.6 inches. It also tells me where the start point is, tells me where the end point is, which is the same as the start point because it is a closed vector. And it tells me that it covers an area of 54.98 square inches. Now, that comes in handy if you are, for instance, doing an epoxy inlay. You now know how big an area this covers. So you can take that and multiply it by the estimated thickness of the inlay you're going to pour to figure out how much epoxy you need to mix up. That's a big help. And it says here the perimeter is 27.6 inches from start point all the way around to the start point again. And it has 6 spans. Okay, that's all great information. But that's not what Joe was asking. He wanted to know how you put those measurements on the screen. We're going to use the dimension tool. The dimension tool is up here under Create Vectors. I'm going to come right over here. We're going to add dimensions to this 2D drawing. So I'll click on that. And now I have several choices. I can go with a length dimension. I can go with a vertical dimension. I can go with a horizontal dimension, an angle, or an arc. And I can choose to show the diameter. We're going to go with a length dimension because I want to measure the distance from here to here and put that dimension on the drawing. Now I get to select what font I want to use. I'm going to stick with the Times New Roman, but this is just like the text tool. I can come in here and I can select the font if I decide I don't want to use Times New Roman. I can make my text height, let's say 0.5 inches. And I can select the number of decimal places. So I can have it do 3-digit resolution, 4-digit, 5, whatever I'd like to do. I'm going to stick with 4. The offset we'll get into in just a second. I can also use add custom text should I want to. I can say from extreme left to extreme right if I want to, just as an example. And now I get to select what layer to put these dimensions on. Now, by default, this is checked when the first time you use it. I've just left it there. This is going to place the dimensions on a separate layer called dimensions. It will create that layer up here in the layer manager, and it will be kept on that layer. If I don't want it to do that, I just uncheck it, and the dimensions will be placed on whatever layer I happen to be working on, in this case, layer 1. So I'm going to go with the length dimension, and I'm going to leave everything else alone. And I'm going to click from here to here. And now we see I have that box. That box represents where I'm going to place this dimension along this line. I can take it to the extreme left. I can take it to the extreme right. I can drag it out here so it's outside of the box or outside of my hexagon. And I'm going to center it on my X0 line and just click. So now we can see there's the vectors. It's 9.2 inches. And I can come up here to the layer manager, and now I have a layer called dimensions. So that's the first dimension that I put on this drawing. Now I can come over here, let's say, well, let's do this one here because it's easier and keeps it a little bit neater. Still using length dimension. I can click from here to here and center this on my X0 line and click. And it's 4.6 inches. Okay? Well, now I want to know the distance from here to here, but I don't want a straight line distance. I want to know from my Y0 line how far up this is. So I'll come up here and I'll click vertical dimension. Then I'll click from here to here, and we see I can put that box wherever I'd like. And click right there, and it's telling me from this point here to this point here on a straight vertical, it's 3.97837. 3.9837, good grief. Okay, Wendell is asking, did I miss seeing the layer on-off light? I don't know if you missed it. Let me bring it back up again, but I know the layer is active because I can see the dimensions. See, it is turned on. Both of them are turned on. Now I can turn it off and my dimensions disappear. I turn it back on and there we are. Now I just started a dimension. Let me hit escape to stop that. So that's how we would do a use the dimensions to find length, vertical dimension. I'll do one more horizontal dimension, and I'll go from here to here and put that box right there. We know that's 4.6 inches, the same as this. And then I'm going to do an angle dimension, and I'm going to go from here. No, I just did that wrong. Escape. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go to this point, then this point, and I get an angle 60 degrees. So you do all kinds of stuff with that. And I messed that up. I should have started here and gone up to there. But I know that now I have an angle of 60 degrees. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Now, again, much like any other vector, these can be V-carved. So if we go over here and we Control A to select all, hold down Shift and deselect this, I'm going to hit V-carve. And flap depth of 0.25 I don't think I need because there's nothing big there. I'm going to go with my 90-degree V-bit. That's my go-to, basically. And I'm not going to use any clearance tools because they're not big enough. My 1/8 inch end mill won't fit in there. I'll just calculate and hit V-carve. No vectors selected. Okay. So here's what we have to do. Right-click. Convert to vectors is not an option. So I stand corrected. They cannot be V-carved. Let me entertain you. Let's go with 0.0625. And I'm going to select a my 90-degree V-bit. And I want to carve on the vectors. And let's see. I thought that these could be V-carved. No vector selected. Okay. And I can't convert them to vectors. That's interesting. Let's close that. I thought they could be V-carved. Let's go back into the dimension tool. Okay. No. Okay. I guess they exist only on the drawing. I stand corrected. I really honestly thought that they could be V-carved. Brooks is saying maybe you can copy the dimensions to a new layer. I can. Let's just go with this 4.6. Copy to layer, new layer, and we'll go ahead and make the layer visible and active. Then we'll come up here and I'm going to turn off all the dimensions. Now let's see if I can V-carve that, or can I convert that to vectors? No, I can't. Let's go into node edit mode. Nope, I can't even select them in node edit mode. Très intéressant. Calculate, no vectors. All right. Okay. I'm going to shoot that to Vectric and let them know that I would like to be able to V-carve vectors. What I would have to do in this case would be to trace them. And I don't do that. Well, I do it, but I don't like to. Okay. Let's go. I'm gonna get a hold of Vectric and ask them about that. At least give me the option. So, let's see here. Oh, I remember what I was going to do. Let's go back into the dimension tool. And I need to edit this. I've got it selected. Okay. Let me click off to the outside here. No. Close. All right. Now, to go back into the dimension tool. To edit an existing dimension, I have to hold down Shift. Then select it. Now I can edit this dimension. Now the offset we were talking about, if I zoom in real close here, we can see the offset from this point to this point is not very big at all. It is in fact 0.1. Let me make it a drastic change so you can see. We'll go 0.25. Hit enter. And it's not adjusting this one. Shift, select. Why are we not editing? To edit existing, and hold Shift while selecting. Escape. Escape. Close, click off. You going to work with me? Of course, this never works. We're not measure. Close. Dimension. To edit an existing dimension, hold Shift while selecting. Okay, I selected it. Now will you give me my offset? And I don't have an apply button. Maybe because this is not on the dimensions. Let me go in here, hold down Shift and select this. Oh. Hold down Shift. Why are you not even letting me select this one? I'm in the measure tool. That's why. Again. Oh, Lord. I get them confused. There we go. 0.1. It's not letting me edit that. Well, then I'll change font. What the heck? We'll go with Swiss. And it edited that dimension. Okay. There are certain edits that'll let you do. Let's hold down Shift and go to this one. And this one, I want to change the offset to 0.25. And we saw how far it jumped up. The offset is the distance between the point and where your extent line of your dimension is. If that's too far away, I can bring that down to 0.20. Hit enter. And it should have moved down. Let's do something ridiculous. We'll go 0.5. Enter. Why are you not doing it? Oh, there it did. Okay, after I hit close. And we'll go back to 0.1. And it did it. So, there are certain things you can edit and certain things you can't. I get you now. So, all right. And I get these two confused all the time. I get the measure tool and the dimension tool confused constantly, as you saw. So, let's go ahead and we're going to change over to layer 1 being active. We'll delete that layer, delete the data, okay. And I'm going to delete that layer, and I want to delete the data as well. Okay. So, now, the next question we had was from Bruce Malmstrom. And he says, if there's time, could you go over offset negative and the use of positive in a pocket or toolpath? I'm guessing you meant in the pocket toolpath or the profile toolpath. I'm guessing. If that's the case, Bruce, please let me know. So, and that's fairly simple. Let's jump over here. I'm just going to go ahead and keep this hexagon as my vector for doing a pocket toolpath. And we're going to go into a pocket toolpath. All right. Cut depth 0.75. I'm not going to make it that deep. Let's go with 0.5. It gives me enough contrast so you can see it. And I'll use a 1/4 inch end mill. That's fine. It's going to take 4 passes. That's fine. For this one, I'll go ahead and use an offset machining strategy. Now we're going to get down here to the meat of the matter here, and that is the pocket allowance. Now, here in the 2D view is where you can see where this pocket allowance takes effect, all right? Right now, I'm going to leave it at 0. And we'll leave it called pocket 1, and I'll calculate it. Now, there are 2 ways that you can display this toolpath when you have it drawn out here, when this is visible. Remember, check mark means visible, highlighted in blue means selected. They are 2 different things. When it's visible, that means it's visible out here. If I uncheck that, it's no longer visible out here. That's what that means. So we'll make that toolpath visible. And there are 2 ways it will display out here. This is considered a wireframe because it's showing you where the center of the tool is going to cut. Okay? On each pass inwards. Or outwards, as the case may be. Up here, and again, this is only effective in the 2D view. We can come up here and we can select how that's being drawn in wireframe, which this is, or solid. Now, if I click on that icon, it turns blue. I can zoom in here and I can see how close to this vector it's going to cut. And this is right along that vector. Well, if we need it to cut inwards or outwards some, we'll come over here and go to the pocket toolpath again. We'll go back into the same toolpath, And this is where our pocket allowance comes in. So we're going to go with just a dramatic so you can see it. We're going to go with 50 thousandths. And this is a positive pocket allowance. And we're going to calculate. And we're going to go back over to the 2D view, still looking at it solid. And we see that it's cutting to the inside of the vector by 50 thousandths. Now, if that's not what we meant, if we need it to cut over by 50 thousandths, go back into that pocket toolpath by double-clicking it, and we'll make it negative. Then calculate, go back to the 2D view, and now we see it's overcutting the pocket by that 50 thousandths. So that's where the overcut and undercut, or negative or positive pocket allowance, comes in on the pocket toolpath. Personally, I very rarely ever use this. If I need this to be 50 thousandths over, I will add, I'll split that in two. So 25 thousandths. And I will just offset the vector by 25 thousandths and use that vector to carve. So, you know, it's 100% up to you on how you proceed with that. But that's, you know, okay. Kurt says, I was going to ask, where would this come in handy? There are certain situations where it could come in handy. For instance, if you were cutting a pocket that something of a specific size had to sit down in. Say you had a positive of this that you were going to glue in place, but it's not an inlay. It's just part of an assembly. And you know the size of the piece that you're going to be working with. You didn't make it, you know, but you've got to glue it into this pocket. So you're going to use a little bit of a negative offset to... Because, for instance, you can't put a 1/4-inch drill in a 1/4-inch hole. You can drill a 1/4-inch hole, but it's not going to fit. There needs to be some clearance there. Well, you can add that clearance here. So when you go to glue this into this pocket, it's going to have enough clearance to slip in there. So there are instances where this will come in handy. Now, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to turn off the visibility on this vector. Now, let's go with a profile toolpath, and down here, it's an allowance offset. Now, I'm dealing with the outside. I'm machining to the outside or to the right of this vector. And it's the same thing. We'll go with the 50, we'll go with the 0 allowance offset. And I don't want it to cut that deep. Again, I want it to go 0.5, just like I did with the pocket. But we're cutting to the outside. And now I'm not going to do anything else down here. I'll just calculate it. And now, with it drawn, with it visible, jump back over to my 2D view, and I see it is cutting straight to the outside of this vector. And I'm getting nice, sharp corners. Well, now, if I decide that I need to cut this slightly smaller or slightly larger, again, that's where this allowance offset comes in. Let's go ahead and go positive 50 thousandths, just like I did the last one. And we'll calculate that. And again, we'll come over to the 2D view, and with it visible, we can see it moved out away from that vector. So it's going to cut 50 thousandths larger. Excuse me. Take a sip of my beverage here. Better. Okay. So now let's go back in here and let's change this to a negative allowance offset and recalculate. And we're going to see that, again, it's cutting to the inside of the vector by that 50 thousandths. So the allowance offset allows you to give a little bit of wiggle room. If you're cutting this part out and it has to slip into something else, you can, without going through all the trouble of remeasuring and doing all the math to figure out how much clearance, you can just come in here and give it a slightly negative offset. It'll cut a little bit smaller. Or a slightly positive offset, and it'll cut a little bit bigger. But now let's take a look at, see if it changes the positive versus the negative. The positive on a profile toolpath makes it cut to the outside, and a negative makes it cut to the inside. So let's see if that changes if we're cutting inside the vector. And we'll go with 0.0 just to see where it cuts on the inside. We'll calculate, go over to the 2D view, and again it cuts directly to the inside of that vector. So now let's see what negative and positive do. We'll start with a positive 50 thousandths, and we'll calculate. Jump back over to the 2D view, and we see on the positive, if we're cutting to the inside, positive makes it move inside further. Okay? Whereas it was just the opposite when you're cutting to the outside. We'll go back in, and we're going to change that to a negative. And we'll calculate, and as you probably surmised, it cut to the outside of that vector. Again, it's decided by the inside. Negative is going to move it out, and positive is going to move it in. Okay? And that's decided by the start point. Okay? Take a look. Inside left. So let's see, where is the start point of this? I'll have to close this so I can go into node editing mode. Oops, close, wrong one. Close, that's what I wanted. Select the vector, go into node editing. Here is the start point. So start point, and you can see the little arrow, little tiny arrow right there. That's the start point, that's the next point. So it's moving in this direction. If I go negative, because, now I can go back in here. If I go negative, because this is the start point, negative to the left, or excuse me, we're machining inside the vector or to the left of the vector. And again, when they say to the left of the vector, imagine standing on the vector, looking in the direction it's being drawn. This is the left, this is the right. So when you go negative, you're not going as far to the left. And in fact, you're moving slightly to the right. If I'm selecting positive, again, I'm cutting to the left of the vector. If I'm cutting positive, it's going to go even further left of the vector. Okay? So again, I'll calculate it, and we went positive 50 thousandths. Now I'll take a look at it and go back into the toolpath. I say back into the toolpath, and it has gone 50 thousandths further to the left of the vector. If I'm working to the outside, it's to the right. So the same logic applies. This is my start point. It's going to cut to the right of the vector. So if I go positive, it's going to cut further to the right. If I go negative, it's going to go slightly to the left. I know that just confused half of you, but once you see it in practice, once you get that light bulb moment, it's just, okay, fine. Okay. Mario wants to know, why is it that when in a pocket toolpath using offset, the start point is different from what I have selected, but when using raster, it starts where I want. I prefer offset because I don't get zigzag. Okay, here's why. And that's a great question, Mario. When you are creating a pocket, come on. And let's close this. I don't want that visible. All right, let's go back into the pocket. When you're creating a pocket using the offset, look at the little diagram here. Your toolpath is going to start in the center and work its way outwards. Doesn't matter where the start point is. Your start point, in this case, the start point is right here. Let me close this. Go back into design for just a second, and I have my XY datum position set to the center. I'm going to change it to the bottom left. Okay. Yes, I'll recalculate those tool paths. Okay. Now I'm all set. Let me uncheck those tool paths because I don't need them. And I can go back into a pocket toolpath. All right. I now have my XY0 here. We already saw when I went into node editing mode, my start point is here. If I'm using the offset toolpath, it's going to still send that bit right up here to the center, and that's where it's going to start carving in a circular pattern, because that's what I told it to do. If I go raster, let's just go ahead and go raster, and we'll calculate it. This is pocket number 2. We see it's going to move over to the start point, and then it's going to start raster cutting this way, horizontally. Let me go back into it. We'll change it to offset, calculate it. Now we see that it's going to go to the center, plunge down, and start cutting out here this direction. That's the way the tool paths are designed. The offset is always going to go to the center of those vectors and then start cutting outwards. And the same thing applies. If you're using offset, you can use pocket allowance, and it'll cut outside or inside the vector based on what you need. Because this doesn't enter into the pocket allowance. It doesn't matter if it's offset or raster. So that's why it ignores the start point. Now, I forgot something in talking about the profile toolpath and the allowance. Pocket, or the, there we go. The allowance offset. We looked at inside and outside. We cut on the vector. My allowance offset is grayed out. I cannot do anything because we have told the toolpath that I want to cut with the center line on the vector. So the center of that bit is going to cut on the vector. And to demonstrate what I'm talking about, we'll go ahead and we'll calculate it. Jump over to the 2D view, and we can see the center of that bit was on the vector. Okay. So I hope that straightens that out for you there, Bruce. The allowance offsets and pocket allowances do come in handy. They do have uses. If again, I rarely use them simply because I find it easier just to offset the vector and carve to the vector. But you know, it's in a curious question, Mark. How would you go about setting up a custom pocket raster, but make it cut figure 8 or other pattern? You could draw an 8 maybe, break and rotate copy, but quick to do. Okay, I don't know what you mean by break and rotate, but we can get into custom pocket raster to cut into figure 8. Now, are you talking about making the bit cut like so as it's machining? Or are you talking about drawing an 8 and make it carve the figure 8? Think of it as a way to brand texture your name into a pattern, if you know what I mean. I kind of know what I mean. Okay, make the bit follow the pattern as it's machining. Yes, okay. What you would have to do is, for instance, if you wanted to put that in the bottom of a pocket, what you would have to do would be come up here and create a vector text. No, you wouldn't use that. Let's see. I get what you're saying. You would have to either draw the vector you want the bit to follow and then use that as a texture. Use selected vectors as the pattern. Let's play with that. Let's play with that, all right? Let me come back over here. And I'm going to go into my text tool. And I'll just type the number 8. Okay, close. I'm going to put that in the center. And let's see, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to take this. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to convert it to vectors. So it's no longer a text object. So I've got that. I'll delete that and this. I'll delete this. Now let's rotate that 90 degrees roughly. Yeah, that's good. That's now Control Z. Let's use the rotate tool so I get it straight. And rotate it 90 degrees. Apply. Close. Okay. Now I want to modify it a little bit further. I want to squish this. I want to squish this down a little bit and maybe elongate it a little bit and just stay like so. Let's do center that up again. And now I want to just make a bunch of, do you want to just do it, say, down here in the corner? Or do you want to make the entire thing about your the whole texture? Let's make a linear array. And let's start with, don't want to go 18 columns in X. We'll go with, we'll just start with one column in X. And we'll do 10 rows in Y. Offset the edge of the loop in the middle. Offset the edge of the loop in the middle. I don't know what you mean by that. Okay, offset the edge of the loop to the middle. Okay, that's completely different. Let's close this. And for that, we're going to go into node editing. Tap the letter N, and I'm going to take this. Do you want these two to meet? Again, we're playing with this. I know that I like that. That's a bit better. I said rotate because it needs to cover all the space. All right, well. Then I don't get what you're trying to do. I was trying to embed this into another texture. But my point remains that what you would need to do if you were doing this is you would need to create the vectors that you want to incorporate into that texture and then use them in, say, a texture toolpath. And that's what I was going to go for here with the linear array. 10 rows in Y, 1 column in X, and I want to offset it by 0.0625. No, not in X, in Y, dummy. 0.0625. There we go. Then we copy. So we have that. And I could incorporate that and use it in the texture. So let's see now. Scoot over here. I've got my pocket done. Yes, here's my pocket. That's done. So it's 1/2 inch. Close. And now in the bottom of that pocket, I want to texture it. So I will use selected vectors as the pattern. Maximum cut depth, 0.3125. That's about 32nd of an inch. And all of these are grayed out, so I didn't need to look at those. We'll calculate it. Now that's part of the texture. Okay. Now let's go with, we'll close that. I didn't put in a start depth, which is why it looks strange. Now I'll take this and this. No, wait. Let me go back into the texturing toolpath real quick here. Okay, I want to go with that, but I want it to stay away from this. Nope, I can't do that. Oh, I hit the caps lock key, no wonder. There we go. And I'll just leave this as it is. That should have stayed out of there, did it? Yes, I believe it did. And we'll preview. And now this is a part of the texture. What I did was let this finish running out. Looking at the 2D view, what I did was I selected this first. That's my outer boundary. Then I selected the top of the offset here and the bottom of the offset here, which means it's going to avoid everything between these two. So, as you can see in the 3D view, it did not cut into this texture, but it did cut across the center and went around it. Okay. So you can yeah, see, that's just basically a normal but slightly wobbly raster. Yes, it is, because those were the settings that I put into here. The maximum cut length of 8 inches. Well, let's bring that down to 2. And a maximum cut depth of 312. And a max overlap of 40%. Let's make that 60. And we'll use a bit larger variation in the step over. The step over, let's make it an 1/8 of an inch. And we'll leave that be. We'll calculate that. I'll undo last. And now I'll preview that. And what we're getting is more of a rustic, hand-carved texture. And if that's not what you're looking for, okay, if that's not what you're after, I can undo last. We can delete this. Close the preview, head back over to the design, go back into 2D view, and we're going to come up here and we're going to create a vector texture. My angle, I'm going to leave it 0. Max spacing of 50 thou. We want some variation though. My amplitude, let's make it 0.75. Wavelength of 2 inches. That's a bit big. I'll leave it there. I'll introduce a little bit of noise. I'll preview it. And that's what that texture is going to look like. And we'll say OK. Now, when we head over to our texture toolpath, I select that. And shaboom. Use selected vectors as the pattern. Calculate. And preview it. That's starting from the top, and I don't know why, but okay. No big deal. Now, if I want to use the vector as the total texture, I can do that as well. What I have to do is I have to just make enough of these to cover the entire bottom of that pocket. This is probably the hardest thing in all of this, is getting the idea out of your head and into mine. That's the hardest thing. So not knowing where you're trying to go, it's a bit of a son of a gun. You know what I mean? That's what I end up with that there. My point is showing you the tools, showing you where the tools are, how to use the tools. Okay, the point is to leave the machine tooling lines instead of being like mowing grass, be it your name brand copied instead. Okay. That's a little bit more clear. Yeah, I don't know about that. You would have to, like I say, create the vectors and to have the bit follow those vectors. So that comes down to designing the vector you want. So, let me reset the preview, close. I'm gonna shoot back over to the design tab, and I'm gonna select this and delete it. Boink, don't want it. Hello. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to delete all but one of these. Delete. And delete. Let's take this out to the middle. And we'll select that. I'm going to put that in the center there. Now I'm going to rotate this. We'll make a circular array. I want the rotation center to be center. And how many copies do I want on a total angle of 360? Let's go for 20 copies. And we'll copy. And that's what I've got there. Is that what you're after? More what you're after there, 8 center. Then let's shift and bring that out. So we've got that slightly larger in the pocket, or do you want it inside the pocket? Is that closer to what you're looking for? More like it, yes. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead and close. Go over here. And I don't think we need to use the texture toolpath on this. We can. I mean, let's give it a shot. What the heck? And I'm just going to use the selected vectors. Max cut depth of 0312. And that's all we'll do. We're using a 1/4 inch ball nose, by the way. So we'll calculate that. Come over into the 2D view. Nope, go back to the 3D view and let's just cut it. Now, this is also cutting deeper. I know you're not going to be cutting a 32nd of an inch if you're machining this into metal. It may be 3/4 thousandths or something like that. That would actually be cool if filled with epoxy. Let's go back in. Let's reset the preview. Go back into here. And let's make that start depth 0, number 1. That'll help. And let's just go for 5 thousandths. I just want to make it real shallow. And we'll calculate that. Now we preview it. Is that a little bit more what you're looking for? Now, you've got a lot of uncut areas here. But then how do you stop it going outside the area without editing the nodes? Okay, that's fairly simple. Let's reset the preview. 2D view. Go back to the texture toolpath. And I'm going to select the hexagon, then calculate. And it's still going to do it. Let's preview. We'll see what happens. Yeah, and it's going to do the hexagon too. Okay, close. Let's reset the preview. Close. Click off. I want to select that as my boundary. Then select those. Well, click off. Select this as my boundary. Hold down Shift. Select those. Calculate. Nope, I didn't do that right. No, that should be right. Nope, it still cut that. Looks like that's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to cut them. All right, let's go over here. All right, I'm going to select everything. Then I'm going to come over right here. Oops. Select everything. Hold down Shift, then select the hexagon. Come right over here to this. Trim the selected object to the last selected object. I'm going to clear everything outside that boundary. Then refit curves after clipping. Okay? So I'm clearing everything outside of the hex. Clear. It's going to take it a second because my computer's got a lot of stuff going on. The purpose of the toolpath is still to surface the pocket area. Yeah, I get that. I do get that. Clipping it wouldn't make a continuous surface toolpath, though. It would break and rejoin, I think. What it should do is join these vectors here and here and here. This is going to come down to the diameter of the bit you use. Let me close this, shoot over here, go into that, reset the preview. 2D view, we've got these selected. Close. Let's go in here. Click off. We're selecting all of these vectors. Whoops. Okay. Control A. Select this. Or deselect that. Now we're using the selected vectors as a pattern. Let me change over to a bigger tool. Let's go with, right now it's using a 1/4 inch ball nose. That's one of the reasons why it's doing this. Select 1/2 inch diameter upcut 2 flute bit. Still going 5 thou, and we're going to calculate. Now we're going to see what happens. You can barely see it. You're just trying to get the quote-unquote swirl marks that it's going to leave behind to look like that. Toolpath color black. We can see where it went. Now let's change that back to no fill. And let's make my material look like let's go with silver satin, just simply because that's going to be closest to aluminum that I've got here. That's still not what you're looking for. So if I were to reset the preview, close the preview, go back into the toolpath, and go with, let's say, because this is a big piece. This is 12 inches by 12 inches here. Well, actually, no, this was 9.5 inches. Let's see, with the biggest, I just used my surfacing bit. What the heck? 2-inch diameter surfacing bit. Let's do that. And we'll calculate. And we'll preview. And again, you're probably just going to see, like you said, instead of swirl marks is the word. Okay, so yeah, you're just looking for the swirl marks to be in this pattern as kind of your way of personalizing. You know, these were all a bunch of number 8s. So yeah, I see what you're getting at. Yeah, I'm not as think as you dumb I am. All right, I got you now. I can't help but wonder if the engraving toolpath would be better for this. The only thing is, you wouldn't be able to select that big surfacing bit for your engraving. So we'll just let this run out here, and I'll tap dance and kibitz while it does. So I see what you're trying to do now. The password is subliminal. Oz says like engine turning. Yeah, kind of like engine turning and kind of like Rose machine. No, what's it called? I can't, it's Rose something. I can't remember. But yeah, it's like a combination of the two. So yeah, this is intriguing. And I like this kind of thing, by the way, because I don't have to tap dance. The only problem is you can't really see what's going on. But I get it now. I get what you're doing. Yes, would be good for wedding gifts and such, personalizing in a more mesmerizing way than a simple engraving. Yeah, exactly. I get you. I get what you're after now. And you've got a lot of variation in what you're doing. Excuse me. You could use a lot of variation in what you're doing, too. Like you could make a bunch of small pieces, small patterns like this, and then do a linear array of them. Rose machine, thank you. That's the one for brioche engraving. Yes, that's the one. Thank you. See, I'm a wood guy. I'm not a metal guy. You say Rose machine to me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I know her. I dated her sister. So, yeah, that's what it would be doing. Let me go ahead and give it a toolpath color. So it would fill in like that, but the swirl marks left behind would be of that pattern that you're talking about. I get exactly what you mean now. Because all toolpaths are going to leave a swirl, surfacing toolpaths are going to leave a swirl of one kind or another. So, yeah, I see what you're getting at. All right. Took a while to get there, but... So before we come out of this, I'm going to delete all these because I don't need them anymore. Just play around, 8 center. Just play around and everything you do here can be either fixed or deleted and start over, you know. So preview early, preview often, and just go for it. What the heck? So, yeah, oops. Before we get out of here, does anybody have any other questions that I need to go back to medium wood? Delete that though. Go back up here. Medium wood. There we are. All right. And click OK. Technically rose engine lathing. Yes. Yes. And again, I'm a wood guy. You metal guys, I still think that there is some magical mystery voodoo that you guys do with metal. There is no such thing as waste to a metal guy. And that's one of the things I admire about you. If a metal guy wants to take a little chunk of metal, he knows that he could still chuck that in his lathe and he can make a fastener out of it, be it a screw or a nut or whatever. To where I'm looking at something like that, and that just gets thrown in a coffee can and taken to the scrapyard the next time I go, you know. And I think that stuff is fascinating. Let me cruise up and try to find your question there, Ellen. I see that you had a question. There we go. Okay. When you right-click on the sentence you added to your project and want to modify it, I right-click and an option pops up. Use text, looked at options, break block into lines. When did that happen? Okay, let me throw this into the 2D view. We're going to get rid of all this. And we're going to go here. And I'm going to go... All right, and I didn't give my name a capital. Bonk. And close. And then I'm going to center that on my material. All right. You're talking about when you right-click on the sentence you added to your project and want to modify it. I right-click, an option pops up, use text, look at options, break blocks into line. When did that happen? She's talking about right-click and, no, yes, convert to vectors or text, break block into lines. This has been here for a while, okay? This has been here for a long, long time. And what that simply allows you to do is, if I select the letter K here, I select both of these. So if I select the whole thing, right-click, go to text. Now before, and that's the reason I got confused a second ago, before you wouldn't get cut, copy, paste, duplicate, delete. You wouldn't get all of that. You would get a very small menu, and this was in it. Break block into lines. What that does is now I've got two separate lines of text. So I can select that line, and I can select that line. And if I go back up here to modify it, that's the only thing I'm modifying. So I can come over here and do that, for instance. Or I can do, make that bold and center right. Close. I still need to move that over so it'll get there. That's what that whole thing is. I remember that being in, I want to say version 8.5. To answer your question, when did that happen? I want to say version 8 or 8.5. Oh, I'm not sharing. Good God. I'm sorry, folks. All right. Who has the chair zapper? We need one. That's what I mean. I need a co-host. I got to find a co-host. Anybody volunteering? I'm going to undo everything I just did. Okay. All right, there we go. Now let's try that again. Rabbit. All right. Ah, Lord. Okay. So I've got these two lines, okay? And we can see it just by selecting the M, this is one line of text. My mama didn't raise no idiots. You think I'm going to put that much responsibility in her hands? She'll use it, and that's why I'm not going to do it. So, anyhow, and I know she's watching, ain't you? Anyway, so yeah, I select that and I select everything. So now I right click, and what Ellen's talking about is come down here to text, break block into lines. That has been there for a long, long time. And what I mean is I think I remember it in version 8.5. I don't remember about version 8.0. That's been a long, long time ago. But that's been there for quite some time. And I don't have version 8 on this computer, otherwise I'd go back and check. It used to say convert to curves. And again, like I said, you didn't have all of these, appearance, component, everything you see that's grayed out wasn't in there. But it's been, copy to, move to, guidelines was not here. It has been there for quite some time. And what this means is, breaking the block into lines, like I said, I can just select, say, the letter K here, and I'm selecting both lines of text. Now, if I right-click, go to text, break block into lines, it deselects everything, but now I can select just the top line or the bottom line. I'm not selecting everything. So now I can do, as I said, I can come back up here into the text tool, and I can change that font, but it leaves this one alone. And I can select this text, and I can make it bold, and then justify to the left. Close that, but I still need to drag it back over some just so that it gets printed or carved on the piece. So I can adjust or modify either one of these independent of each other. And if I select this, and again, we go back up here into the text tool, we see that's the only thing. I'm not bothering this at all. So this text height, let's make it 2.0. Close. And for this one, we'll make the text height 3.0. Close it. Come on. Drag it down out of the way. Center it horizontally. Hold down Shift. Drag it like so. But then I'll have to drag it this way to make it 3 inches tall. So that's where that comes in. Breaking the text into breaking the text block into two separate lines. But I also have the thing now, I've got to do some kerning, so I come over here, back into my text block, and I got to separate this A and this R. Hold down Shift, click to separate the A and the R, And I need to separate the R and the K because of that space there. The M and the A, I'll give it one click. All right. Now close that. Select this line. Go back into text. And everything is pretty well spaced. It's not too bad. Yeah, I'm going to leave that alone. It's pretty blocky, but it's okay. So I'll close this. But now I can hold down Shift, select both of them. I can't adjust this using the kerning tools. What I have to do is I now have to go into move and transform mode and eyeball it to adjust my spacing. Now, if I Control Z all the way back to where they're one line, let's see if I can do that. All right, there we go. Now I'll go back into my text tool so that it's all one piece. I can close up the distance between these lines now and keep everything aligned nice and pretty. And I can tighten those up a little bit. Those are all right. That's all right. Tighten that up a little bit. And I think I'll tighten that up just a skosh. And the same here, the same there. I can do all that with the text tool. Now, the minute I right-click, convert to vectors, now I can't do any of that. There's no text here. There's no text there because I've converted it all to vectors. Now I'm at the mercy of move and transform mode or using my cursor left, right, up, down keys. So Control Z, 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 and then I think I just brought it back to, yes, they're all one line. So, the more I play around with Vectric, the more things I'm finding I didn't know existed. You know what, Ellen? I started with the free trial version of VCarve Pro version 7.5, so that'll tell you how long ago that was. And I'm still learning things that it can do. And it all comes down to the creativity of the user. You folks have heard me talk about him. Channel members, you know I had him on the show as a guest. A gentleman by the name of Milo Scott. He is an absolute wizard with the rotary axis, with editing G-code and editing post-processors. And for those of you going to the Vectric User Group meeting in Nashville, Tennessee, Milo is going to be demonstrating there. He's going to be a presenter at the Vectric User Group meeting. If you have or have interest in getting a rotary axis, do everything possible to be there to see Milo Scott in action. Milo's big trick is he will make a real complex, say a table leg, on his rotary axis and carve it in about 2.5 minutes and using no 3D models at all, using a 2D model. He'll get that rotary axis spinning like a lathe and drop a end mill down and just carve the vectors as that thing is spinning. He is absolutely a wizard. And he likes to show things and he likes to talk. And he is forever walking up, going to the user group meetings, walking up to Edward, the CEO, or the president, rather, and the other, Todd, Becky, and showing them things that he's made And they're like, you didn't do this with our software. And he's like, oh, yeah, I did. And if you're going to the user group meeting, do everything you can to watch his presentation because he is a genius. I hesitate to say evil genius because I don't think he's got an evil bone in his body, but he does that little chuckle like he knows something about your mother, you know. But he's a good man, a good guy. And I have had him on as a guest on the members only side. Speaking of members only, tomorrow, channel members, will be the first episode of year 5 of members only live streams. There's nobody more shocked and surprised and pleased than me, believe me. But I have a problem. I have no idea what we're going to do. I got no clue what we're going to do. So I'm going to rely on you. Give me a topic. What do you want to see tomorrow evening? There's a lot of things we can do, but I need to know. I realize I just did Milo and you all a disservice here. Two Towers Art is asking Milo who, and a few people have chimed in. It's Milo Scott. Yes, is his name. Milo has a YouTube channel. He doesn't post over there very often, but the things he's posted over there are very intriguing. What I will do is I will go find Milo's YouTube channel, and I'll link it in a pinned comment as soon as we're finished here. I will also go over to his Facebook profile and find Milo Scott Studio, which is his active Facebook profile. And you can see more of his creations. As I said, the man is a wizard. I will put links to his YouTube channel into his Facebook profile down in a pinned comment as soon as we're done live. And you'll be able to come back and see those two links. And there is Steve, Johnny on the spot. I mean, right there. That's his YouTube channel. And again, I will link it in a pinned comment as soon as we're finished here. So, channel members, it's up to you. I've received very few pictures of your projects to show off tomorrow. And I have received no suggestions for what you want to see tomorrow. We're beginning year 5. Let's start it off right. You have my email address. You know where to find it if you don't have it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you're interested and want more information on channel memberships, right underneath this video panel, you'll see the word join. Click on that join button. Now, you're not joining anything. You're just getting information. There's no obligation. You click on that join button, and another video is going to start playing. It'll tell you all about channel memberships. There are more perks than what I describe in that video because things have evolved. We started a Facebook group, members only, private Facebook group. We started a members only private Facebook chat. We started a members only private WhatsApp group where we text each other and comment to each other all day long and sometimes all night long. Steve, you are killing it. We're right there, man. There's Milo's Facebook, Milo Scott Studio on Facebook. Check out his work. He's just an absolute wizard. The WhatsApp group. WhatsApp is not social media. It's not social media. It's simply an encrypted, from end to end, it's an encrypted texting program. It took off in Europe. It took off in Asia. I have no idea why it didn't take off here because it's really a really good app. It really works nice. So if you want to be part of that secret members only stuff, click that join button, get some information on it, and make your decision from there. We have a great group of people. There's plenty of room for more, and we'd like to have you join us. Next Sunday, I have no clue what I'm going to do. Like I said, I had a little idea in my back pocket. I might use that next week if I don't get any other suggestions, but we'll see. You guys had great questions this time, and I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your suggestions. If you have show suggestions, or if you know the name of a guest that you would like to have me bring on and talk to, leave me a comment down here in the comment section. That's what it's for. You can't do it now. You got to wait till we're finished live and then come back. That's a pain, but YouTube is YouTube. You know how that goes. Hopefully you will come back to find the links to Milo Scott's YouTube channel and to Milo Scott Studio on Facebook. Then you can leave me a comment and give me ideas. Okay? Give me ideas. All right. 8 Center says it's only encrypted if you disable the auto backups. Otherwise, Google gets all the data monthly or weekly or whatever it is now. Well, WhatsApp isn't owned by Google. It's owned by Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram. But your point remains. Yeah, turn off auto backups. I do that on everything. But anyhow, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do Sunday. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you want to see. Ellen wants to see Jack in the shop as a guest. I'll give Jack a yell and see if he wants to come on. And what do you want him to talk about? Because Jack in the shop is full of ideas. He does laser work. He took a long mill, a CNC long mill, and turned it into a plasma cutter. Yeah, I mean, Jack's that kind of guy. What do you want him to talk about? Give me an idea. Or if you just want to talk about his goofy personality, I don't know. Leave me a comment, or Ellen, shoot me an email. You got my email address. Or tell me on WhatsApp. All these people that you see with their name in green and a little star next to their name, they're channel members. And you see what kind of company we're keeping over there. All right, that's enough of that. I got my train of thought derailed so hard it's not even funny. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. I really appreciate it. Like I was saying to Kurt earlier, I do this because it's fun. And it's not a job. And I like to keep it that way. Thank you for making it that way. And I'll see you soon. See you members tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Y'all take care.